So Jai Opetaia meets Chisora, a war across generations. So when Jai Opetaia, the slick Southpaw world champion, collides with battle-hardened veteran Derek Chisora, it's more than just a fight. It's like a clash of eras, youthful speed and precision face-off against brute strength and relentless pressure. Can Opetaia cement his legacy even further? Or will Chisora's experience turn back the clock in a war across generations? So I think in Britain, we all kind of really like Chisora, and he's given us some great fights. Let's go through some of the discography, only some of it. So you got the fights with Tyson Fury. The main fight, I would say, is the first fight. That was a really competitive affair, and it was going back and forth, and really exciting fight. Then you have the fight with Usyk, which is really an outlier because he was so competitive in that fight, and he used good head movement. He got in range to land the overhand right, and also he would turn southpaw, and he was effective in using the southpaw jab. He showed Usyk a lot of different looks, and there were times when, you know, that you would think initially looking at that fight that, you know, Usyk would just run rings around him, make him miss and just make him pay. And in some instances, he did make him miss and he did make him pay. But in other instances, Derek Chisora was able to get in range and he was able to get in his punches. And he had a lot of punch creativity, and he seemed to have a very concrete strategy. And I thought he put up a tremendous performance, and it was one of the best performances that someone has put up against Usyk. So that's something to be very proud of. Then you got the two fights with Joseph Parker. There's only a few things I remember with the fights with Joseph Parker. In the first fight, I think Derek Chisora scored a knockdown in round one, and then the fight went on to be a very competitive affair. But in the second fight, I think Joseph Parker at points really dominated the fight. And I almost remember Joseph Parker doubling and tripling up on his left hook, a real short left hook, just doubling and tripling up on it. And also I remember him landing a lot of right uppercuts. Now this makes a lot of sense, landing right uppercuts against Chisora, because at times Chisora can have different defenses, but sometimes he goes down like this. He has a low center of gravity, and whipping in the uppercut is a good idea when someone is so low. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think the Joseph Parker fight, in one sense, shows the talent and strength of Derek Chisora, but it also shows ways that you can beat him with those short left hooks, or those short hooks, and those uppercuts. And then you have how could I forget the performance against Carlos Takam, which was an amazing, again, that was more like a heroic performance where he took and absorbed so many punches, got in the trenches, and then got the knockout in round 8. And that was a great night. Definitely, it was a great night. And then you had the fights with Dillian Whyte. The first fight was very competitive. The second fight was very competitive, but then he got caught with that left hook. And, you know, there was a time when Dillian Whyte had a real world-class left hook. He scored multiple knockdowns with that left hook. Joseph Parker comes to mind. Lucas Brown. He was very effective with that left hook. He hurt Anthony Joshua with that left hook in round 2. So I guess when we're making an impression in terms of judging how Derek Chisora is going to do against Jai Opetaia, apologies if I mispronounced that, the best reference point would probably either be his latest fight or a fight against a southpaw, because Jai Opetaia is a southpaw. So in the southpaw context, I think we got something positive going for Derek Chisora, because Derek Chisora not only did well against the southpaw, he did well against the best southpaw, the best pound for pound, arguably the best pound for pound fighter in the world. So that is something that Derek Chisora can take from that fight. He can look at that fight and see that, you know, not only can he compete well with southpaws and deals with the angles, he can compete with the greatest southpaw currently operating. So his last fight was against Joe Joyce. Now Joe Joyce has been, initially Joe Joyce's career was going up exponentially, but now unfortunately he is on a downward spiral. Now in that fight against Derek Chisora, it's important to understand the context. Derek Chisora was the underdog and Joe Joyce was the favorite. And what Derek Chisora did in that fight is he spent a considerable amount of time on the ropes. There's a few things we can deduct from that. Number one, being on the ropes is a way to conserve your energy. Larry Holmes used to do that, Muhammad Ali. But number two, it's also a way to, or it can be a way to lure your opponents into a false sense of security, because, you know, if your opponent unleashes a barrage of punches and then needs time to gain for air, now you've got time to unleash your punches. And there was times when Derek Chisora was doing that. So I think it's kind of like a combination of two things with Derek Chisora. Number one, stamina, but number two, it's an old pro's trick that he clearly incorporates. So if Derek Chisora is against the ropes and you unleash like a 8-punch flurry on him, he'll tuck up nicely and then he'll be coming straight back. And with the Joe Joyce situation, or with the Joe Joyce fight, what he would do, he would tuck up, he would get small, present a minimal target, he would dip, and he would do a few things. I think he was throwing like the straight right to the body and the left hook to the head, but his main attack was that overhand right. Now, Joe Joyce, respectively, doesn't have the greatest reflexes, so he was able to catch Joe Joyce with that overhand right. And I think the knockdown in round 10 was a right-hand counter. Now that's good because it shows that Derek Chisora is actively looking for counter punches and is able to execute on counter punches even in the final round. However, catching Joe Joyce with a counter punch, catching Jai Opetaia with a counter punch may be slightly different because they both have different reflexes and they both have different foot speed and they both have different punch speed. So it's an entirely different fight, an entirely different fighter. But even though Derek Chisora spent a lot of times on the ropes absorbing punches, he did. I can't remember what the punch stats were, but he did throw, lots of punches in that fight. He threw a lot of hooks. He threw a lot of overhand rights, which takes out a lot of energy when you're a heavyweight. So he was active in that fight, but he spent a lot of time on the ropes. So there's good things he can take from that. But it was a passionate Derek Chisora. It was a Derek Chisora that was a warrior, that was ready to take punches and give punches. It was a Derek Chisora that was engaged, and it was a Derek Chisora that was dangerous. Now let's talk about Jai Opetaia. He's a southpaw, cruiserweight champion, has a great right hook. It's really short. When he throws that right hook, is short, and then he throws combinations off the hook. He also uses the feints, and then he fires that straight left. And when he fires that straight left, from what I've seen, he can fire it at the target or through the target, and it's fast and it's quick and it's hard. He's got good footwork. He steps out of range. When punches are coming, he can just quickly step out of range. Got good reaction. He also has a nice right uppercut. He has a really nice right uppercut. And he can really time you into that right uppercut. And that might be a critical punch. So Jai Opetaia has a lot of really good ingredients. I don't know about his punch resistance. I've never seen him hurt. But there's a question here. Even if he hasn't been hurt by a cruiserweight, can he take the heavyweight punches of Derek Chisora? Well, there's a few questions here. Can Derek Chisora land those heavyweight punches, and can he take those heavyweight punches? And that's why I think there's a lot of intrigue here, because you would think that Jai Opetaia is younger, he's fresher, his team have probably chosen this fight, so they're probably very confident that they can win. But there is definitely some variables with regards to, will he be able to take heavyweight punches to the head and to the body? And if Chisora is able to replicate the performance against Alexander Usyk, will Jai Opetaia be able to match that level of intensity. Now, that's a massive ask. It's a massive ask for Derek Chisora to replicate that performance. But if he can replicate that performance, then we'll have a very engaging contest. It's so hard to imagine what's going to happen here. And I think a lot of it is based on, can Derek Chisora get in range? When Derek Chisora has been dominated, he's been dominated by fighters who fight at long range, i.e. Tyson Fury. So we had a very competitive first fight with Tyson Fury, but the second fight and the third fight, Tyson Fury was able just to control it with the jab. But Usyk, who is a great boxing intellect, was unable to control Derek Chisora with the jab. So I think it's the long arms. Derek Chisora struggles with that style. So if Jai Opetaia is able to control Derek Chisora with the jab, then that's a problem. But if you take away the Tyson Fury fight, logic would say that if Derek Chisora is engaged like he mostly is, he will be able to find the range. He will be able to find the range for his hooks. And this is a very, very challenging task. And I'm actually very impressed that Jai Opetaia's team have agreed to this fight. And I think that this could be a very exciting fight, because I've been watching some of Jai Opetaia's fights and I feel like he's got good boxing technique. He's got good boxing IQ. He has good boxing technique. He has good boxing IQ. But I feel that in his heart, he's just a warrior and he likes to have a tear up. So I'm not sure if he has the physiology or the psychology to just beat an opponent on just outpointing an opponent. I feel like he likes to get in there and he likes to really engage in combat. And that could actually be a benefit to Derek Chisora. And it can also be a benefit to the public, because this potentially could be a grueling and sensational fight. I do worry for Derek Chisora with that fast right hook and that fast straight left. And I really worry for him on that fast right uppercut. But like I said, I feel like Derek Chisora, he comes prepared, he comes to fight, he comes in shape, and he could be a massive handful for Jai Opetaia. And when you take the psychology, it's similar to, say, Evander Holyfield. And I remember when watching the third fight with Evander Holyfield-Riddick Bowe, what a great fight that was. All of the fights with Evander Holyfield and Riddick Bowe were great. The first fight, the second fight, and the third fight. But I remember a commentator said in the third fight that even though it may be beneficial for Holyfield to box Riddick Bowe, his physiology, or the psychology of Evander Holyfield, is to get engaged, is to engage inside. So even though it might be more beneficial for him to box, psychologically, he wants to be in the trenches. And if Jai Opetaia is similar in terms of his wiring, then this could turn into a really exciting fight.